Hi students, today we are discussing about sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So we know that flower is the main important reproductive part of an angiosperm's flowers. So flowers is the sexual part. We know many parts of this. This is sepals. This the colorful part are called petals, and here we can see stamen. In this the anther contain pollen grains and the long filament, and here female reproductive parts we can see stigma, style and ovary. In that ovule will be there, so and it contains egg, female parts. All these are female parts. The stamen is the male reproductive part. If it can, the flower contain maybe unisexual, means if it contains only whether female parts or male parts, not both, then they are called unisexual flowers. For example, papaya and watermelon contain unisexual flowers. If it contains both, like in hibiscus, this is a hibiscus flower. If it contains both male and female reproductive parts in one flower only, it is called bisexual. Hibiscus, mustard examples. It contains both stamens and pistil. And I already told stamen is the male reproductive part, which contain pollen grains that are yellowish in color, so that always sticks to our hands when we touch it. Then when we touch the stamen, so when we touch the stamen, we can see the pollen grains, and in the center of the flower will be pistil will be present. It is the female reproductive parts. It is made up of three parts. It is made up of three parts. I already told, stigma, style and ovary. So that together is called pistil. See here, the swollen bottom part of the ovary. See here, the swollen bottom part of the ovary, and middle elongated part is the style, and terminal part which is sticky, it will be little sticky, it is called stigma. The ovary contains ovules. This ovary will contain ovule and which contain egg cell. So this contain egg cell. The male germ cell produce the pollen grains. So in this contain pollen grains. This pollen grains fuses with the female gamete present in the ovule. This both male and female gametes will fuse. How it will fuse? This fusion is called fertilization. It will lead to zygote. After that, this zygote will grow into a new plant. So the pollen needs to be transferred to the stamen, to the stigma. So the pollen should be transferred from stigma to in this tube. So from the style, and it will reach to the egg. It should reach to the egg. So if it occurs in the same flower, it is called self-pollination. Or if it transferred to another flower, from one flower to another, or it transferred to another flower of other plant of same type, it is called cross-pollination. So the transfer of pollen from one flower to another is achieved by some agents like wind, water or animals. After the pollen lands on the suitable stigma, so the pollen grains by wind or by water or by some animals, when it reaches the stigma, I was already told stigma is a sticky part, so it will here it will get attached. So it will get attached. From this the tube grows. So here see the pollen grain, it will a tube like part will grow from the pollen tube. So pollen grain, so a tube grows from the pollen grain, and it will travel through the style and it will reach to the ovary like this. So after fertilization, the zygote divides several times to form an embryo. Here the fusion of male and female gamete will take place. From this tube the pollen grains are carried to the female gamete. There the male and female gametes will get to form zygote, will fuse to form zygote. This zygote will divide several times to form embryo within the ovule only. So the ovule develops a tough coat. The ovule will develop a tough coat, and which will be converted into seed. So the ovary, what happens to the outside ovary? It grows rapidly and ripens to form a fruit. So outside fruit, inside seed. This will form into seed, and outside ovary will form like a fruit. So meanwhile, what happens to petals? So we will get out what happens to sepals, petals. So meanwhile, the petals, sepals, stamens, style and stigma may fall off, shrivel and fall off. It will get shrink and it will fall off. Have you observed any flower part still persisting in the fruit? Sometimes we will see some part of flower present in the fruit. Then what happens? What is the advantage of seed formation? The seed will again in the future form into a new plant, and this process of converting a seed by germination into a new plant is called germination. See, so how the germination takes place here. See, the cotyledon food storage. Here it is the radicle, means future root. It is a future plumule, is a future shoot. So this is a seed, like this they gave. So when the appropriate conditions are there, the seed contains a future plant of embryo, which on germination will form into a new plant. So like this, the reproduction, sexual reproduction in flowering plants takes place. And this diagram is very important. Practice it, and also you should know all the parts of a flower thoroughly. Thank you.